So in making a graph in Microsoft Excel, I'm going to be taking, this is going to be my final outcome, what you're looking at right now. I'm trying to make a graph that will tell me that in 6th grade they sold over $1,000 worth. In fact, I can add the exact amounts onto the graph itself, which I hope I get done by the time of this little talk. This is the data that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to leave the data open here for a minute while I switch over to my Microsoft Excel. Now, what I like to do, you can actually move these column bars over if you don't have enough space to type in. I'm just going to get right up here. You see where on the letter A, I go up there and I just move my mouse right over to that little bar right there. I can drag that, make it wider. I can make it do the same thing with my rows if I need to have some extra space. Right now, I'm going to start entering in my information. And what I like to think of when I do my information, I like to think of row 1 as being my labels that I'll have on my x-axis, and then my row 2, I like to look at that as being the data that I'm going to enter. So for example, it's going back to this sheet right here. You can see I'm basically going to stick with pretty much the same information I have here. I'm going to have money collected inside my A1 cell. 6th grade is going to be inside my next cell, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then down below I'm going to have dollars just in this same respect. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to copy that information over. And since you don't have the same thing I have, you're actually going to have to enter the data. So when you do enter the data, this is what you should end up looking like this. And I'm going to drag these out so we have a little bit more space. And these names here, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, those are going to become our x-axis labels. And then in dollars, we've got this written down here. Now something else I can do is I can format these cells, the 1075, the 1174, and the 952, so that it will actually say dollars on it. And when I do format, I can go to cells, and I can set this up for currency, which is right here. And I can have a couple decimal places, but honestly, I really don't need it right now. So I'm just going to set my decimal places to 0 and click OK. And you can see how it's really set it up for money right now. Now, my next step in the process is I need to highlight all this information. So I'm going to come over here to money collected, and I'm just going to drag my mouse. That means I'm holding my left button down, and I'm going to take it down to the 952 cell, which is cell D2, and I let go. Now, it appears that the first cell is not highlighted, but in reality it is. Even though it's white and not in the same color as the others, it still is highlighted. My next step is to go to the chart wizard. So that's right up here. And I click on that chart wizard. And when that pops up, I get all these different options here that I can go through. Now, I know that most math teachers call this a bar graph. They'll say, go do a bar graph. Yet in Microsoft Excel, if we went to a bar graph, which is this one right here, it has all of the columns going sideways. That sort of confuses me. Maybe it's the age that I grew up in or something, because I just think of bar graphs as being straight up and down. So that's why I like to leave it right here where it says column graph. I don't need to make any changes down in here. And because these actually over in here are different types of graphs that we're working on. I mean, this is a 2-dimensional graph. If I wanted to, I could go to a 3-dimensional graph. But for the purpose of this assignment, I'm just going to keep it right here on this very first one that pops up. And I'm going to come down to here and click Next. Now you can see that it sets up fairly well right now. You can see that the money is set up properly on my y-axis. The grade levels are set up for the x-axis. The legend is over here on the right, which sometimes causes problems when we have more columns than this. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, we only have 3 columns. So it really doesn't cause a problem here. But if we have more columns, I like to get my legend down at the bottom so that there's more space to go out to the right. Now everything here is set up properly for me right now. There's nothing I have to do on this window except click Next. Now in this window, this is where I can make some changes. For example, the chart title right now is set up for dollars. And if you go back to my original sheet here, you can see that I have a name for this. It's the magazine sales per grade level. It's a name that really the chart represents. So that's what I'm going to try to get in here, is I'm going to have the magazine sales per grade level. And as soon as I type that in and click in another area, you can see that that pops up. Now the category for my x-axis, really the category being the label for the x-axis, is really grade levels, because that's all that is grade levels. So I'm going to come down here where it says x-axis and type in grade level. Click into the y-axis, and you can see I clicked here, but it popped in the grade level here. Now I'm going to my y-axis, and I need to come up with a label. And what does the money represent? It represents dollars. And that's all I really need to type in. I can just right away, it pops up, or I can click in some sort of area. Now there's all sorts of tabs here where we can make changes if we want to. There's axes, there's grid lines, there's a legend. Now in the legend, as I said, what I like to do is I like to have my legend come down to the bottom, or I could even pop it up at the top. I usually don't like to have it here on the right hand side. So I'm going to go over here and just switch the legend over to the bottom. That pops it down there. You can see it just switched down. And then another one I like to use sometimes is the data labels, because if I go over here and I click the value, you can see that on the graph itself it's going to pop in the exact values, and which that helps the viewer of the graph to really visualize more of what this graph is all about. And there really isn't much else I have to do on this at all. So I'm going to go down here to click Next, and the next window that pops up is this one. There's two ways that I can save this thing. I can save this as a brand new sheet, and if I click on a brand new sheet, what that does is it gives me the graph all by itself. If I need that, I'll go ahead and click it. Right now I'm just going to leave it as it'll become an object or a picture inside this Excel spreadsheet. I'm just going to leave it at that for right now and just click Finish. And there it is. There's this chart window comes up where I can make changes if I need to. But basically this is what the graph is going to look like as of right now. If we make the graph bigger, you can see that more of the lines show up and there's more information. You know, we have a couple grid lines now that show up going across. Basically this is what I need. As long as it's highlighted like this, if I want to, I can go ahead and go to Edit. I could go to Copy, and if I want to, if I want to go to a brand new Microsoft page, all I need to do is right click and paste. Or if I want to put this graph into a PowerPoint show, then all I would need to do is go over to my PowerPoint, which is right over in here, and I do a blank presentation. Over here I'm going to click blank, and then I could do a right click and paste, and I'm going to have my graph showing up in a PowerPoint presentation. So there's a couple ways that we can do that.